I now have the pleasure of introducing Lisa Melvick. Spelled this wrong. Lisa will be presenting project number 7 from the Competent Communicator Manual, Research Your Topic. Lisa will advocate the importance of early learning, one of the most important issues for the future of our children. Lisa?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I'm here today to convince you as to why we need to advocate and invest in early learning. Did you know that by age 3, children have formed a quadrillion connections in their brain? And by age 5, their brain capacity has reached 90%. It's staggering. And those connections and that brain development is the foundation for cognitive and character skills. By cognitive, I mean reading and math and science and other academics. By behavioral, I mean social emotional development and executive function. So for those of you who are not familiar with executive function, it's the part of the brain that's responsible for problem solving and impulse control. We have a lot to thank the scientists at the National Scientific Council on the Developing Child at Harvard University, for they have taken a very complex body of research and really helped to make that very credible and understandable to help us really recognize the importance of early learning and those first 5 years. And we want to make those first 5 years count, because there are only 2,000 days between the birth of a child and their first day of kindergarten. Not long, but we need to maximize those learning opportunities. And the Urban Institute of Washington found that more than half the 5-year-olds that lived in poverty were facing such deficits in their math and reading and behavioral that all the money and teacher evaluations could throw at it would not be able to help them so much with the achievement gap that they would face. And they connect that research to graduation levels, so we have a higher percentage of people dropping out of high school. We have a higher percentage of people experiencing teen pregnancy, and we have a higher percentage of people being arrested for violent conduct. And then Hart and Risley, 2 psychologists, worked with a group of families for a number of years. And they discovered that a child living in poverty by age 3 would hear 30 million fewer words than their similar children in higher socioeconomic families. 30 million fewer words. And why is that so important? Why by age 3 and somebody's vocabulary and language modelling would that be so important? Well, it happens to be a predictor of 3rd grade reading levels. And for those of you who know or don't know, 3rd grade reading levels are a strong predictor for school success. But not only school success, they happen to be a predictor for prison facilities. By meeting that threshold, society calculates how many prison beds we're going to need in the future. And do you know how much we're actually spending on regional justice in Chelan County? We're spending $8.3 million. That's significantly more than a lot of other infrastructure expenses. $8.3 million, just on regional justice. And how does the US do? Well, not very good. In comparison to the rest of the world, the US lags behind most other developed nations, and also Mexico and Russia. How much do we actually spend on early learning in class? Well, in 2008, and I don't imagine that it's gone up any more significantly than that, but for the education and care of children from kindergarten to 12th grade, we spend about an average of $10,000. And then from children ages 3 to 5, we spend $5,000. And from children from birth to 3, we spend $300. Now don't forget, remember my statistic, a quadrillion connections. Well, what happens when those connections, you don't use those connections? They get pruned. That's what happens. And we spend $300 on children, births, ages to 3. And what about the return on investment? Because, there's a lot of complaining about how expensive these programs are. But the return on investment is estimated about 10%. And I'm told that the average return on investment for the stock market is 7.2%. So don't you think it's a better investment to spend more money on our children for those first 2,000 days, for those first 5 years? And I mean, early learning, according to the National Education of Young Children, actually is, it can be, they define early learning from birth to 8. So, and when I'm talking about early learning, I'm talking about opportunities that might be in the home, between the parents, it might be in more formalised childcare, and it might be out in the community, at the library, or at the museum. So it's not a one-size-fits-all that we're advocating for here, because early learning opportunities can be maximised anywhere. And so if you are a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, or you haven't even had children yet, don't forget these important years and make sure that the first 5 count. And not only that, early learning is a great foundation for a strong workforce in a global economy. We all agree, I think, on that. But then, what about our military? Well, did you know in Washington State, 69% of young adults actually don't qualify for the military? Do you want to know why? It's because of lack of education, obesity, drug and crimes. All things that can be really worked on, a social emotional development, those early years really count. And everything's tied to that. And how are we doing in the Wenatchee Valley as far as getting children ready for kindergarten? Well, actually, from school assessments, 3 out of 4 children are not ready for kindergarten. And what do I mean by that? Well, it means I can't hold a crayon. I can't use scissors. I can't sit still. I can't share. I can't use the restroom independently. I don't know who a safe adult is. Those are all things that really show us whether a child is ready for kindergarten. And we need to work hard to get those kids ready for kindergarten. Those first 5 years count. So what do you think we can do? Well, as I mentioned, if you're a parent, or if you're a grandparent or an aunt and an uncle, you can interact and model that language. Talk, talk, talk. Because remember, those children living in poverty hear 30 million fewer words. Talk, talk, talk. You can't do enough talking to your child, to that child. And then, of course, overall, we need to get it right the first time, because we don't want to put a Band-Aid or sink a whole bunch of money at the other end when we could have invested very wisely in the beginning. So, I hope that you'll all join me in really advocating for early programs and also interacting with young children as much as possible, because quality early learning really matters for every child, every family, and of course every